Hey guys, this is Maniac. Guys, now it is finally the time that we unleash this deck profile from our character of the week, none other than the famous Arkana. Arkana, to say it a little bit briefly, was one of the servants of Marek. He was a magician and illusionist in the first place, but then was controlled by the powers of the Millennium item of Marek. And, or better to speak, he promised him to finally bring him back together to his beloved girlfriend Catherine, who he lost during or after one of his shows, which he badly injured him because it failed. One of the stunts that he made as an illusionist. And then he sent his girlfriend away, or wife even, I think. And then because his pride was badly hurt as well. And then Merrick came to him and promised him to give him back his girlfriend in any way. I don't know how, but yeah, he just promised him that. So then he went and challenged Yugi Muto, Yugi and Atom, better to say. So we finally got the duel. So the specialist of the deck profile of Arcana is of course the Dark Magician, but is a entirely other kind of Dark Magician than Yugi had, or Atom and Yugi. Better to say Atom because it's the old servant of the Pharaoh. Atom. But this one, as you might see on the artwork, is far more sinister and cunning. And if you, it has a dark red color, and of course, it's a darker tone to it, which really fully resembles the crafty motifs of his master Arcana. So, and that mirrors itself also in his deck. So, let's just talk not too much about it. Let's just dive into this deck profile. Of course, like I already said, he himself was a magician and also an illusionist. So Arcana mostly set his trust in spellcaster monsters, but now also he had also, in which more underlines his dark sinister character, had some fiend type monsters into his deck. And guys, you have to remember, still, even if I put 3 offs of every single monster which he possessed in his deck, it wouldn't be enough for a good powerful deck profile. So I made some additions. Some of the additions which Konami recently put into his deck, which made a lot of sense, and others that I made up myself a little bit, but which I feel fully appreciating that dark, sinister spellcaster tone of his deck, deck monsters that he had. Now, of course, as a 3 of, we do have his Dark Magician. Now, Dark Magician, like I said, of course, you know it is a very iconic card. Also in this artwork, Dark Magician is a 3 of because the main focus of this deck is, of course, to bring out his Dark Magician and play out with spell as well as support trap cards, which want to weigh in and to bring this Dark Magician spell to play. Of course, it does possess the normal 7 stars. It's a dark attribute and spellcaster type monster, and of course, it also has the very famous 2500 attack and 2100 defense. But, guys, this is not his strongest monster, because and as it was seen in his hand, the strongest monster of Arkana was also a spellcaster, of course, and it was especially also a magician. It was the Black Magician of Chaos. Black Magician of Chaos, of course, the ritual monster which Atem played out against Pegasus in the final duels of the Duelist Kingdom arc, which is one of my favorite duels of all times. And yeah, so you might also guess and speculate, which makes all the sense in the world, that he has also the ritual spell card for the Black Magician of Chaos in his deck. Black Magician of Chaos, like I already said, is a ritual monster with 8 stars, 2800 attack, 2600 defense, and also dark attribute, of course, and spellcaster. Like I already said, we saw these cards in this card in his hand as well as others, which we also will tap into later on. But I have to first of all basically tell you guys something, because it's very important. We have to also keep in mind and consider that some of the cards which were shown in his hand were filler cards, because maybe Katsuki Takahashi didn't think of any other cards to fill it up, because we all saw the 3 Egyptian boss monster cards in his hand. Sometimes we saw the Winged Dragon of Ra, sometimes we saw Obelisk the Tormentor, but this is really made up until the fact is coming true that he might have made copies. I mean, Marek Ishtar made copies of the 3 Egyptian boss monster cards. Which he told that he made just of the Winged Dragon of Ra. But we might imagine that he might have had made also the copies of the other boss monster Egyptian god cards. God, and not really, they are just like in the anime, but not in the reality, of course. So yeah, you might imagine that this was possible, but I didn't add them because I thought it would be inappropriate, and that Arkana's strategy would be countermanded by the method of having the 3 boss monster Egyptian cards in his deck. So, like I said, these are the boss monsters that are very important into his deck. Then, this is very important as well to have, and I put them there as a 3 of the Mystic Tomato. Well, Mystic Tomato, of course, is very important to combine with another card, because if it is destroyed, it's a plant monster. Of course, dark attribute also with this artwork, also underlining that dark and sinister atmosphere which resembles Arkana in his deck. It's 4 stars, dark attribute, and it's plant monster with 1400 attack and 1100 defense. But the very most important key onto this deck is that we have to let this be destroyed in order to summon another monster, which of course is, put it on there, Legion of the Fiend Gesture as a 3 of also. And of course, Legion of the Fiend Gesture is a spellcaster monster. And of course, you want to bring that spellcaster monster onto the field. And spellcaster, dark attribute, 4 stars, 1300 attack and 1500 defense. So it is Mystic Tomato is able to bring this one onto the field, as its effect is if it's destroyed by battlefield, you can Special summon one monster with 1500 attack or fewer from your deck to your field, which Legion of the Fiend Gesture, of course, fits into. And this card also has an effect, of course. Legion of the Fiend Gesture has the effect, during your main phase, you can, additionally to your normal summon, your set, bring one monster of the type Spellcaster as an tribute summon into the open attack position. You can just use this once per turn. If this card is put from the field to the graveyard, you can put one normal monster from the type Spellcaster from your deck or your graveyard to your hand, and you can just use this once per turn, of course. So of course it is also possible to bring the Dark Magician from the graveyard or from the deck to your hand very fast with this card's effect, and this is of course one of the aims that we have. And then of course bring the Dark Magician again into play. So also two very practical effects in order to, if you summon this one, then you can, or if you summon another one, then you can tribute both of them. If you have just one Legion of Fiends Gesture, for example, and another one you summon, then you can, for example, tribute both and then bring the Dark Magician onto the field. And if that one is put onto the graveyard, then you can maybe bring another of the Dark Magicians onto your hand, or from the graveyard to your hand. But it mustn't needn't be very necessarily a Dark Magician, because it's just the content is that you might bring another spellcaster of a normal type, which means of course you can also have other spellcasters, which I put some of them into this deck, bring also onto the field, or bring to say it better, onto the hand of the player with this deck. And the fourth of the monsters that Arkana possessed and also played out, of course, was this very one, Malus, Doll of the Demise. But just have a 2-off. Because Malus, Doll of the Demise is a Dark Attribute 4-stars and Fiend type monster with 1600 attack and 1700 defense. And it has the effect, if it's destroyed by a permanent continuous spell card, then it can be special summoned from the graveyard at your next standby phase. This is a reminiscence and a reference onto the Ectoplasma spell card, which of course has the effect then, of course, to destroy a monster and then to give your opponent half of its attack of this monster which you destroyed as a burn damage to his life points. And that's why I thought I'd bring this just as a 2-off, because it doesn't have really much to do with the circle of the Dark Magician and the Spellcaster combinations, and like Mystic Tomato also as a part of this whole shenanigans. So Malus, Doll of the Demise is just a 2-off, but still it really confirms the Dark Sinister tone from Arkana. Now, these were all of the monsters that we saw in the show and the anime, but still, you have to think, even if I had this one as a 3-off, you might then 6, 9, 12, 13 monster cards, just a little bit few, so you just made up some cards which make all the sense in the world. And one of them was one card which Konami also thought would be proper, namely Kaiku, the Ghost Destructor, which on the one hand from the artwork sinister, and then with the mask like Arkana even both of them have masks on their faces. And Kaiko the Ghost Destroyer, of course, is a spellcaster monster. Dark attribute also with 4 stars, 1800 attack, but very weak 700 defense. But if it puts battle damage to your opponent, then you can remove up to two cards, monster cards from his graveyard, and your opponent cannot banish any cards from any graveyard. So it has also a block effect. It is very handy with or against decks which have graveyard effects, graveyard banish effects, to be more precise. And yeah, so you have also that negate possibility, as well as, of course, to banish yourself instead. Maybe one of the powerful monsters that are recently in the graveyard of your opponent. So it makes also sense in the world, and even it has good attack stats. So it would be, making all the sense in the world. Then I put a card in there which I thought also would make sense. That is Magical Marionette. It is 5 stars. It is a dark attribute, also in spellcaster, of course. 2000 attack and 1000 defense, but as the effect, it plays within spell counter. If its spell card is activated, you can put a spell card on this card. When the spell card resolves, it gains 200 attack for each spell counter on it. You can remove 2 spell counters from this card. You can type once on the field destroyed. So power boosts. It does have a power boost due to its spell counters, and then of course also the ability due to the spell counters to destroy a monster of your opponent, or a monster even in general, because you can target one monster on the field. So it also works with the Legion of Fiend Gesture effect. Then can put it on the graveyard and then bring its effect into play. So it makes sense to have this card in the deck. Then I put in there Gesture Confit and Gesture Lord, of course, playing onto the theme with the gestures. I put these two also into the deck. And Gesture Confit, for example, with 1 star, 0 attack, 0 defense. Also the other one has the Gesture Lord has dark attribute, 1 star, and 0 attack and 0 defense. But they are also both spellcasters. This card's effect works like that. You can special summon this card from your hand and open attack position, and if you do, bring this card and another open monster which your opponent controls at the end phase of the next turn to your opponent's hand back, and that's in 1 turn. And you just can control one of these Gesture Confits. And Gesture Lord has the effect, finally, to as long as this card is the only card on the field, on the only monster card on the field, it gets 1000 attack for each of your cards in your spell and trap card zone. So it's also also in all of the spell and trap card zone. So it's a very good trump card if you don't possess any other monsters. Then you can put this one, or even if there are no monsters at all, then it can become very powerful and have a boost effect. Then further on, I put in there also from the artwork, makes all the sense in the world. I put in there 1 Copycat, because Copycat also a good trump card if the enemy, for example, has an very strong monster on the field. Of course, Copycat is a light type monster, but it has 1 star, 0 attack, 0 defense, so it also fits in the theme of the gestures with 0 attack, 0 defense. But it has the ability to copy the card of the monster, the attack stats and defense stats of an opponent's monster which he controls, and if on the condition that you normal summon, flip summon, or special summon this card. So you can then put this card on the field and then attack your opponent's monster card. Both will be getting destroyed, for example, and then you can start with from 0. So it's not that bad. In fact, I think it's very handy if you are with the back on the wall, if you want to have it like that. Then I put in there a masked sorcerer. Or there. Don't matter. There you go. A little bit more. Yeah, that's perfect. Masked Sorcerer, of course, has the is a dark attribute, 4 stars, and spellcaster monster with 900 attack, 1400 defense. If this card puts damage to your battle damage to your life points, then you can draw 1 card. So it's also a good draw power possibility. Of course, you have to clean up the field from monsters that are much stronger than that one, but with the possibility of having the Dark Magicians onto the field, you can put them into play. Then, now, guys, we have to remember, we are in Battle City, so we had still vanilla monsters, and in the Legion of the Fiends gesture effect, I just is possible an option for all spellcaster normal type monsters. So like the 3 Dark Magicians, but also I did put in there the Illusory Gentleman with, of course, Dark attribute, 4 stars, 1500 attack, 1600 defense as a spellcaster, and of course you can bring this card onto the field with a Mystic Tomato. And then, of course, if it's destroyed, you can bring it back with the Legion of Fiends gesture from your hand or from your deck. Yeah, so it's a good possibility to also bring your monster cards into play. Then I have the Secretariat of Secrets. Also, this is in spellcaster, of course. Secretariat of the Secrets, also dark attribute, 2 stars in spellcaster with 700 attack and 500 defense. Like I said, this is Battle City, and we also have some weak monsters in there. Yeah, and finally I have 2 OCG cards, which you might, like I said, I want to always have to have those deck profiles that I'm like putting down for you guys. Also a possibility and strong enough to make a good figure into the gold format. So you might also take this one out, the Secretariat of Secrets, and I also have 2 OCG cards, Bewitching Phantom Thief and Ancient Sorcerer. Bewitching Phantom Thief, dark attribute, 2 stars, 700 attack, 700 defense, also in vanilla monster, and works with the effect of Legion of Fiend gesture. And Ancient Sorcerer, 4 stars, dark attribute, also spellcaster, 1000 attack and 1300 defense, works with the effect of the Legion of the Fiend gesture, and also from the Mystical Tomato, as well as these two also, and these 2 also. So it's very consistent. It makes all the sense in the world. In the gold format, you might still have a chance. Like I said, you can put these 3 also out if you don't want it, if you think they are too weak. Yeah, this is it. These were my monster cards for this deck profile. I also thought the Dark Red Enchanter might be a proper option, but yeah, I didn't find it. And yeah, it's also not that bad, and also resembles the dark tone of the spellcaster monsters in the Arkana deck. But yeah, you can do it, put it also in and let it out if you want. But these are all the monsters that I put in there. And now we're coming to the spell cards, of course, which also focus on the Dark Magician more than any other cards. and a little bit, of course, on the Doll of the Demise and others. But we come to these spell cards, and then we just see. Oh yeah, can just put this still on there. As first spell card, of course, as for the draw power, I have the Pot of Greed, which makes all the sense in the world. I'm not sure whether he played it out, but this was a very standard staple Battle City draw power card, so I put it also in there. Then Monster Reborn, which he played out in order to bring his Dark Magician back, also a staple card, and all makes all the sense in the world to especially summon more monster. Then, as I mentioned earlier, the Ectoplasma, the one continuous spell card that he possesses in order to destroy the Doll of the Demise, and then put burning damage onto your opponent's life points. Yeah. And then, of course, with the Doll of the Demise's effect, you can special summon the Doll of the Demise back from the graveyard to the field. Then I thought it would be appropriate if he had also a spell card which destroys other spell or trap cards. And as we have the Doll of the Demise in there, I put Bait Doll in there. A card which Marek Ishtar, or Yami Marek, to say it more precisely, had in his deck, so it might be also a card which he had from Arkana. And of course, you can force the activation of one face down trap card if the timing activation trap card is incorrect, negate the effect, destroy it. If it's not a trap card, is returned to its original position. If this card is activated, it's placed onto the deck, not to the graveyard. The deck is then shuffled. Sorry guys, to destroy trap cards, of course. Then Tribute Doll also resembles that Doll theme on the one hand, and of course on the other hand, it has the possibility to tribute one monster, special summon one level 7 monster from your hand that can be normal summoned set, cannot attack this turn, but a monster with 7 stars or level 7 is another possibility to bring the Dark Magician onto the field. Then we have some cards which are directly dependent from the Dark Magician, having the Dark Magician on the field. 1,000 Knives, Dark Magic Curtain. The 1,000 Knives, of course, if you have Dark Magician on the field, destroys another monster on the field. And Dark Magic Curtain, if you have to pay half of your life points, and then you can special summon the Dark Magician from your deck as a special summon. So also at a high cost and risk, but maybe it gives you the win possibility, so it might also be worth it. Then I put in then a card which we didn't see that he had, but I guess that he had this one also, which is attacked with Dark Magic, which needs to have the Dark Magician on the field, and you can then destroy all spell and trap cards of your opponent. Then a card which we might speculate or make the adoption that he had, which is the Black Magical Ritual, of course, in order to bring the black magic, dark magic of chaos onto the field. Do we have it? There we go. A black magic of chaos needs this spell ritual, so you might guess you would have it. Then, of course, anti-magic arrows, which is a quick spell card, and then destroys, or on the beginning of the battle phase, spell and trap cards and their effects cannot be activated, and the cards and effects cannot be activated as a reaction onto this card. So it's also a very powerful possibility to block the spell and trap card effects of your opponent. I have Fissure as an exchange for an anime card, which has similar effect to destroy one of the open monsters of your opponent's side of the field. And last but not least, addition that I made was Magical Blast, which works with spellcaster type monsters and also has that burn damage effect. For each spellcaster type monster you control, you inflict 200 damage to your opponent. During the draw phase, if this card is in your graveyard before you can give up a normal draw this turn, and if you do, add this card to your hand. So also, yeah, it has a recycle effect, and you can then burn your opponent more to the point to really like damage him badly. If you do it all again, you maybe, for example, have a board with 4 or 5 spellcaster type monsters on your side of the field, then you give him about 1000 life points damage, and then if you return it instead of your normal draw, you maybe can repeat this effect. So it's very cunning and crafty. Yeah, but these were my spell cards. As I already said, I can maybe change a little bit the chronological order to that you see better which cards I added, and make all the sense in the world in which he really played out, or maybe logical. Like if you exchange that, then it would be, these are my additions. The first row he had, I think Pot of Greed or Grace or Charity had played even out. And this first row are all cards which he possessed, or the enemy card. Works similar. And these are my additions to that. And of course, this also might be very logical. Now, these were my spell cards. Then onto the trap cards, which he played out even. Also a couple of, but they weren't all dependent on the Dark Magician solely. Because there were some which are very independent from the Dark Magician, but had also cool effects. But first of all, the Dark Renewal, which also of course works with the Dark Magician, which if you and your one or more monster are normal or special summoned, you can choose one monster and one monster from the type spellcaster which you control, then put both onto the graveyard, and then you can special summon one spellcaster dark spellcaster type from your deck or your graveyard. And of course, also it's not necessarily the Dark Magician, but you can also bring back others. But yeah, this was very famous for bringing back the Dark Magician back, so it's completely linked to that effect. Then of course, Tragedy, as in 2-off I played this with both artworks, which has of course the effect if one or two monsters are in open attack position which your opponent controls, you can put it onto the open defense position, or change it onto the open defense position, and destroy all monsters then in defense position which your opponent controls. So it changes the position of attack position monsters onto defense position and destroys them. 2-off. Then a card which in the anime was comparable, which is of course Fiendish Chain. It is a little bit like Spellbinding Circle. Activate this card by you choosing one effect monster on the field, and then you negate the effect of the open monster as long as it's on the field. Additionally, the monster cannot attack, and if it is destroyed, this card is also destroyed. And last but not least, the Pineapple Blast. Also, in the anime there was another card. I don't know how it was called, but it works similar. You can only activate this card when you normal summon a monster successfully. If there are more monsters on your opponent's side of the field than your side, destroy your opponent's monsters so that your opponent controls the same number of monsters as you. Your opponent selects which monsters are destroyed. So it's comparable to, I think it was called something with balance. Yeah, we had an way meter or something like that there on. And if you had more monsters, your opponent had more monsters than you, then his monster numbers were reduced until he had then maybe, if you have control, for example, 1 and he had 3, then 2 are destroyed, then he also controls 1. And the anime was like that. I think Yugi had 2 monsters and he had 0, so all 2 monsters which remained were also destroyed, and then it was a 0-0. So it's very cunning also, and handy for, of course, the one possesses this card. Guys, there's no extra deck. We had no fusion monsters or something like that. So this is it. This is my, I think 41 or 40 card. I'm not sure, something like that. You might count it yourself. Deck profile for Arkana, the character of the week, and of course next week we will doing another character of the week and also another deck profile. This is it for now. There will be coming in the future maybe an ultimate, but certainly a turbo deck profile, which has an changed setup for the Arkana deck, and maybe in the GX timeline, and then you might then make your own judgment about it if you like it or not. But this is it. This was my deck profile from Arkana from Battle City, and relevant for the Gold format, and of course with my own additions. I hope you guys liked it. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and stay tuned for more content onto the deck profiles. And of course, there will be also another opening from a set which is completely linked to this character, or at least its cards. I thank you for listening, and I hope you have a good day and good evening, good afternoon, and good morning whenever you might see this. This is it from me, your Slifer Maniac.